Good morning. Sorry for the long wait on the loading screen there. I'm trying a new setup with Restream.io, and it says that I'm also streaming to YouTube, and I was trying to check to see if that's true, but I can't tell. So, anyway, I will go ahead and jump into the topic today, which is commitment and rituals. What made me think of this is the lifestyle changes that I'm making. Getting up earlier, getting to a schedule, and generally trying to be more aware of where I'm placing my time and energy. Not to say that I'm doing it all right, but that I'm trying to be more aware of it, because what you are aware of, you can tweak and make changes to. What you're aware of is open for discussion and debate. And the thing that it's done for me is brought more confidence. I've found often in my life, if I keep commitments, then I feel more confident. And I think that this is a genuine life lesson. As you keep commitments, you feel better. And something that was a little bit odd is that there are also things that are not commitments, but that I'd classify as rituals. And I'll explain the difference between those two in just a second. But those also seem to help, I guess I would say. So I classify a commitment as something where there's generally a relationship. So between me and you, or me and God, or me and myself. But there's some moral principle, I would say, to a commitment. And when you uphold your moral values, you feel more self-worth, because you get to decide what worth is, and then you get to rise to it to meet it. And that is my definition of what commitment is. Rituals, on the other hand, I would say are amoral. Not immoral, but amoral. Meaning that they don't have moral value. So, for example, a commitment that I have for myself is to wake up every morning early. Early goes in air quotes because I don't have a set time, but I try to get to bed early, and then I wake up earlier than I've been waking up all year, and really the past several years, and I'm not using an alarm. This makes me feel better. This gives me more time in my day. This helps me feel more prepared. A ritual that I have, and this is from the Jim Quick video that I watched that I've referenced a couple of times about morning habits. So a ritual that I have is that I have a cup of herbal tea in the morning. It is, I'm trying to remember the name of it, Sweet and Spicy from Good Earth. No sponsorship or anything, but I like it because it has a little bit of sweetness to it. There's another one called Yogi Sore Throat, which also has a little bit of sweetness to it. So there's no sugar, but it tastes sweet, and that's palatable for me. The other ones are all some sort of blend of chamomile, and to me that all tastes like grass. But I also have a cup of one of these relaxing chamomile teas in the evening. I'm not convinced that there's any moral benefit to them, meaning I don't fulfill a commitment to myself to make my body healthier by drinking them, or at least maybe I do, maybe I don't, but I don't have a strong sense of when I drink this tea, I'm doing something for my body. It's just a ritual that I've taken on. And the ritual is comforting. I don't think that it adds significant value to my life, but it does add value to my life. It's nice to have something that I don't know quite what the right word is, because I'm not really familiar with this experience of doing something for the sake of doing it. I mean, I'm sure that I have done it, but not conscious decisions. I'm going to go do this because I do this, but also being aware that I'm not clear that there's any real value to it. It's just a thing that I do. Maybe the tea is somewhat of a meditative session. I don't really know why I do it, but I have herbal tea in the morning after my run, and I have herbal tea in the evening. And typically, I would say I do associate those with learning. not necessarily learning per se, but in the morning, while my tea is in the microwave getting hot, I'm figuring out what am I going to learn today, what YouTube video am I going to watch, or what book am I going to read from, or what course am I going to take part in for a little segment. I'm doing some sort of learning activity, and while my tea is heating up, I have the time to do that. And while in the evening, while I'm drinking my tea, I'm settling into typically a fiction book that I'm listening to before I go to bed. And so it's not so much that the tea itself has any real value, but it's a bookend, I think, is what it is. It's setting a marker in my day to bridge to something else. So I talked more about rituals than I thought I would. I guess that's because I'm still figuring out what it means to me in my own head. But I do think that these things are important. We are creatures of habit. And I don't believe that by trying to go against our nature, we're going to have a better quality of life. Well, in some aspects. Like, I do believe that as animals, we have a tendency to be violent, and I don't think that we need to incorporate that into our lives. We do need to have an outlet for aggression. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. Commitment and rituals. We are creatures of habit, and I believe that as we establish commitments in our lives, especially consistent ones that we check in on a daily or weekly basis, which you often might get through meditation or through church or through some relationship with someone else that's a coach or a mentor or whatever. But as we and certainly you make commitments to your boss, you make commitments to your spouse, you make commitments to your friends. In some ways, I don't think all of those qualify, because sometimes we just say things, but we're not considering the moral value of it. And I think it's best not to do those, because I believe commitment is something that is somewhat sacred. It should be reserved for when you mean it and are going to act on it, because otherwise you're not going to get the value out of it. But these commitments and rituals that we insert into our lives, I feel like they do help us to be able to organize and to be able to feel better about the choices that we make, and give us, and hopefully they're up for debate and redeciding. So just because you make a commitment doesn't mean necessarily that you need to keep it, but it puts a pin in place that's up for evaluation, that gives you a good default, perhaps. If I were not getting any benefit out of waking up early in the morning, that's probably a bad example. I don't know how you couldn't get benefit out of that now that I'm doing it. But there's some things that you do that you're committed to, but you have to evaluate whether you get any benefit out of them or anybody else. Does it help you? Does it help your relationship with God? Does it help your relationship with your family or other people? And if not, then maybe you want to keep it as a ritual, but it's probably not good to have the mindset of a commitment. Anyway, these things, they come up for evaluation and discussion in your own head, or maybe with other people. But they give us anchor points. And I used a filler word. I'm trying to avoid that. I'll probably use several in this video. I'm stumbling because I really didn't have a clear picture of all the things that I was going to say. I just had this kind of little bit of inspiration of, this is an interesting idea. I want to talk through it, which is some of what the idea of vlogging is. But anyway, I believe that I've reached the end of my productive thoughts, and the rest I'll have to let ruminate myself, and then maybe come around another time if I've got something more poignant. With that said, I hope that you have the best morning ever. And before I do the little adios bit, I want to make sure that you know you can subscribe on YouTube and on the Facebook channel, both of which are linked in the description of this video. If you want to keep following stuff like this, go ahead and give it a big thumbs down if you don't, or a thumbs up if you think this is kind of cool. And if you're interested in learning to code, that's my other channel that's a little bit more structured, where I put a little bit more, it's not just morning shower thoughts, cold shower thoughts in this case, but it's a little bit more structured, and I'm trying to build more of a curriculum style where one video leads into the next. So if you want to follow Beyond Code, that link is also in the description. I would love it if you did, especially if you got any questions about coding, anything you're thinking you want to increase your quality of life by increasing your job title. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. But if you're considering it, I'd love to know what's holding you back, any questions you have. And also, I'd kind of be interested if you have any comments on the things that I'm saying every morning. I'd be interested to hear those, or any questions you want to know about things that are working for me in my life, or if I found a solution for certain problems that we all succumb to. I think tomorrow I may talk about depression. I'm not someone who is struggling with depression, but I have had a major depressive episode before. But that's kind of a sensitive topic. I'm not sure yet if I'm ready to go into it, or if that's something that I really do need to marinate on for a bit and have some thoughts before I put it down. But I'm well over time, so adios.